Hi, Misha here, and with a certain recent addition to my collection, I wanted to address a topic that I did bring up in the Yugoslavian collection video, at least as pertains to the M72. The tendency of a lot of people to label anything that is a Kalashnikov system and that has a heavy barrel and bipod to just label that automatically as an RPK. And this isn't at all true. Why does this matter? Well, if nothing else, for parts interoperability. Or really just to be correct. Sometimes knowledge, at least in my view of things, is just fun to collect and know. So I brought out 3 guns that are commonly referred to as RPKs. They really aren't. In the front, we have the Arsenal SA-RPK5, so even they call it an RPK, but it's actually a semi-automatic version of the Bulgarian LMG, that's the name. And this is chambered for 5.56 NATO. Behind it, we have the M72 again, which, as you know, is the Yugoslavian light machine gun, chambered for 7.62 by 39. This isn't an import, this is a kit build that we saw in the past video. And then behind them, in the back here, where it won't get bumped, we have my new addition, the Finnish Valmet M78, which was the first long heavy barrel AK system gun ever imported into the USA, so it's not surprising that it was often not just referred to as an RPK, but even used as an RPK in things like Hollywood movies. So it's kind of understandable. And this one's chambered for 7.62 NATO, 308. So we actually have 3 calibers here. So we're going to go through each one, kind of compare it with a conventional RPK, Russian pattern, and really point out how they're different, not just in length and weight, but also features. So at least you'll hopefully see that you can't just take a Bulgarian barrel and use it in a Russian build, or find a replacement bipod for your Yugo and pick up a Romanian and it fit, or find anything for a Finnish Valmet and hope it fit. They are definitely proprietary. But I've always said I really like light machine gun type guns, and the RPK in particular has always interested me, so I'm always happy to do a video talking about them. So with that, let's just get started and dig in, get some comparing done. I wanted to begin with the Yugoslavian Zastava M72 that most people just pretty much just call an RPK, and at most they'll say, oh, it's an RPK, but it has the finned barrel, and then just kind of leave it at that. Now, I mentioned this and did a comparison with this Russian gun, Russian RPK, first year Molot build here, in the Yugo collection video, but that's a long video and it was kind of just buried amongst it, so I wanted to give it much more attention this time. Just to be fair, these are both kit builds on Nodak Spud receivers. And yeah, just kind of talking about the M72 is in no way an RPK except for the broad strokes. Well, what do I mean by that? Overall length is slightly different. The RPK is 41 inches. The M72 is a little bit more than 40 inches, maybe 40 and a half at most. There's really a difference in the barrel though. The RPK has a 23 and a quarter inch barrel, and the M72 has a 21.3 inch barrel, so nearly 2 inches shorter. Also shorter, the handguard. The RPK, the handguard is 6 inches. On the M72, it's actually 5.5 inches. Likewise, the bipod. The RPK has a 13-inch leg on its bipod, whereas the Yugo here has a 12-inch bipod leg. Interestingly, that's the same length as the common PKM bipod. Both are threaded 14x1 left hand with the muzzle nut. But the RPK has a stepped barrel with a ring for the cleaning rod in the middle. The Yugo has no ring because it's a shorter barrel, although it does have one under the gas block. But it's a much heavier profile with far less of a step, and it gets very heavy with the fins in this. Both have 1.5mm stamped receivers, but they are a different pattern. The RPKs is, an RPK, whereas the Yugo, this is actually just an M70B1 receiver. In fact, the whole gun from this point back is the same as an M70B1 pistol grip, standard Yugo buttstock with rubber recoil pad. There's only one difference. There's no spring-loaded pin in the back for disassembly because this does not have a grenade launcher. Whereas the RPK has its own receiver, clubfoot stock, a whole different way of attaching a stock. Both do have the windage, elevation, adjustable sight, but of course they're marked according to their nations. And of course both of these are chambered for 7.62x39 and feed from standard AK magazines or drums. Because of all the differences, namely the barrel, even though it's shorter, it's so much heavier. Weight. An RPK is around 10.5 pounds unloaded, whereas the Yugoslavian gun is around 11.5 pounds unloaded, so it's about a pound more. And most of that has to do with the furniture and the barrel. So at the end of the day, actually very few RPK specific parts will work with an M72. Of course things like trigger group and stuff might, but furniture won't interchange, bipods will not interchange, barrels certainly will not interchange. Heck, even the cleaning rods are a different length. The Yugo cleaning rod is about an inch shorter. And here they are on their side with the bipods folded up. This one, this Molot build here from Legion USA is a little unique because it's an early 1961. That's why it has the ribbed top cover. And actually with this one a dimpled receiver is proper. And it has the wood pistol grip. Later they would go to a more common pattern. And the dust cover, the top cover, would be smooth. This, like I said, the M72 originally would actually be on a milled receiver. The original M72. When they went to the M72B1 is when they went to the 1.5mm stamped receiver. So again, once you take the barrel assembly off, your receiver is virtually identical to M70B1 rifle. Of course, the barrel assembly is unique to this to be used as a light machine gun, and they certainly used these in Yugoslavia and exported these to many friendly nations. including Iraq. And of course the Russians exported their RPK to many nations. And that's kind of the funny thing. Even though a lot of nations use the RPK, very few actually manufactured a true pattern, a true exact copy. Really, the only one I can think of that manufactured a true RPK is Romania. Everyone else kind of put their own twist on it. And that's the point of this video, just to show you that, yeah, what people consider RPKs are really just Kalashnikov pattern guns configured to be a light machine gun. But yeah, I just wanted to reiterate this, kind of the observations and how they're different in the dimensional purposes, because I pretty much figured that this was lost in the giant Yugo collection video. Plus, of course, the M72 is going to be the most common one we talk about in this video. So if you have any questions about the M72, feel free to drop them below and we'll try to answer them. And with that, let's move on to our second contestant tonight. Next up is the Bulgarian Arsenal LMG, that's the name, although even they on their website call it an RPK. But again, it's really not. This is mine. This is the SA-RPK5 and 5.56 NATO. In the past, they've done the RPK7 and 7.62x39, and very briefly the RPK3 and 5.45. Also, for military clients, they do the LMG-F, which has a side folding stock, but the ones in America, Samatos, have been the fixed stockers, and most of them come with the wood furniture, although they have done small brief runs with this black synthetic, and this seems to be the furniture that the military versions typically have, which makes a lot of sense. And for comparison, we have an RPK 74 again. This was imported as a quote-unquote Bulgarian kit, and I have little doubt that it did come out of Bulgaria. It might have even been originally assembled by Arsenal there, but the parts are very clearly Mulat Russian. It's also quite possible that it was just sent to Bulgaria and then scrubbed and remarked Arsenal. So the RPK-74 is very similar to the RPK. Originally would have had wood furniture too. Later they went to this plum stuff. Overall weight and length is essentially the same. It's even threaded the same, 14. The only real difference, it has a new birdcage style flash hider. They also changed the bipod connection a bit, and the barrel profile is a wee bit lighter because obviously 5.45 is a lot smaller than 7.6239. Still has a stamped receiver, 1.5 mil. This is a US Nodak receiver. It's one of the old Vector builds. Note there, ribbed handguards, cleaning rod. Okay. So, the Arsenal gun. First and foremost, it's on a milled receiver. That means that that's going to be heavier. It also means it has the top tang with one screw and the bottom tang with two screws, whereas a stamped gun like this up here has only a top tang with two screws on it. That means it takes its own specialized furniture. This looks like an RPK stock maybe, but notice how much swoopier it is. And it is decidedly not interchangeable. It does have a cleaning kit in it still. This is the modern Bulgarian sling. The handguards are also a little different. The bottom looks similar, but it has to be altered a bit or different styling to fit in the milled receiver. The top, though, is smooth and actually flared out kind of AR-M9 style. Still has a windage, elevation adjustable rear sight, heavy duty, smooth top cover, pretty much the same push thing in the back for takedown. Scope rail is standard, but they consider a saw type pistol grip. But we get to another difference is the barrel. This is still a 23, website says 23.2, so it's theoretically maybe slightly smaller. Could just be rounding error though. But the thing is, it doesn't have a taper to it. It is heavy profile all the way, whereas again the RPK barrels have some taper and whatnot. Also, it does not have a cleaning rod under the barrel, nor a way to support one. Now this is threaded 14mm, and this is an Arsenal muzzle brake. You can put whatever you want, but I think it is very fitting for this. And I definitely want to point out the barrel because these barrels are out there on the market loose as Arsenal RPK barrels, and more than a few people have bought them thinking they can use them to complete a build using a Russian or Romanian kit. This is not correct. It is an entirely different profile, and you would essentially have to totally rework it. And of course it's also meant to go in a milled receiver, although this is a pressed and pinned barrel, not a screw-in barrel, so that's something, I suppose. Overall weight is actually not much more, because this is a heavy-duty stamped receiver with bulge trunnion, also has the cleaning rod, and the bipods are a little lighter on these. It's about 11 pounds, so not really significantly heavier. This bipod is quite interesting too. Notice it's shorter. It ends well before the one up here. It's about 12 inches. This is a PKM style bipod. So it has a different collar. You can usually tell guns with the PKMs because they have a hinge. What's nice about them is you can actually drive out a pin and remove them, whereas with a true RPK bipod, it's pretty well fixed on. Another neat feature, like I said, there's no cleaning rod under the barrel, right? No, it's actually a sectional, 3-piece sectional cleaning rod housed on the arm of the bipod here that I'll show you in just a second. So quite a bit of difference in the barrel assembly, and of course the receiver too, and thus the furniture. So certainly inspired by the RPK, but very different in application. One thing about the RPK-74 with the new collar, it allows a much wider rotation for the user. This was to help monopoding, because with the new 45 round mag, if you just try to set it this way, you can angle it and have your mag and set the gun down, and just gives the soldier a little more flexibility for uneven surfaces. The cleaning rod kind of works as a stop for it. On this though, there's no cleaning rod, but it is a much tighter fit. Really is a different look without not just not having a cleaning rod under it, but just nothing, no hangy down bits to support it, and it's a very kind of plain profile without any taper or dip really. Till you get up here to where the bipod's at. Here you can see the hinge. This is here. There's this button. You can use this by sliding it to get to your cleaning rod. And being very thoughtful, there's even a spring in there to keep it from rattling. I think it's kind of a neat way to store a cleaning rod. I don't know. These are not imports. They are, or were, assembled here in the USA by Arsenal Inc. in Las Vegas. But they used original Bulgarian parts kits, barrels, parts, and even the receivers, while they're US made, started off as a block of ordnance steel that was brought out of Bulgaria. So they machined them into final shape here. And these are the old school Arsenals that really earned them a reputation back in 2003, 2004, 2005, back when all their guns were seemingly hand-fitted and built and just buttery smooth. They also had this pretty nice semi-gloss paint finish, very consistent, very durable. Yeah, Arsenals from that. It's not that Arsenals are bad today, but man, from that era they were nice. Double hook triggers. But as I've said in many videos, Arsenal brings their A game with their mill guns. They really do. But they've never imported an RPK, so they're kind of all their specials. And again, here's the 74. There's never been a imported 74 either. The closest to it would be the Vepr FM RPK 7433, which is actually a semi-auto RPK 74M. But for the original 74 pattern, you're going to have to find one of the few parts kits that came in, or few vector builds. But they are very much worthwhile. And yeah, I actually like this SA-RPK5. I wasn't sure at first, but after getting in and shooting it, it's actually pretty nice to have an RPK type gun, LMG type gun in 5.56, especially the way things may be going with 5.45. That's what you can get now. But yeah, anyone who finds these barrels, I definitely wanted to point out the fact that these Bulgarian barrels are not directly compatible with a Russian or Romanian parts kit. So, caveat emptor, folks. And again, the furniture is totally different because it has to fit the milled receiver versus stamped. Alright, with that, let's move on to our third candidate tonight. And it should come as no surprise that this rifle is in today's video. I've recently had it and a few others. This is my Finnish Valmet M78S. Something people frequently do refer to as an RPK, but it's actually quite clear that it's not. Much like with the M72 from Yugoslavia, this is a RK62, or even M71, if you will, with a longer, heavier barrel. Although it has a lot of the same general features as an RPK, bipod, clubfoot stock, it's just because it was designed to fulfill the role of a light machine gun. And for comparison, I figured I wasn't sure what to bring out, so I just brought out my AES-10B again. And these two do have kind of a similar position in that they're really the only AK LMG style guns to be imported, at least in numbers. The Russian Vepr FM RPK is available, but yeah, it's a specialty type gun. I don't know, just figured why not. Of course, the Romanian AES-10B here, this is the Paratrooper. It's a licensed production version. Has their wire folding stock, but it has the standard 1.5mm receiver, top cover. This one has the pretty uncommon front dong, and it has a bipod that I really like, the Fancy Pants Romanian adjustable and removable bipod, and it has the late style Romanian RPK type flash hider. This one also has a carry handle, which is actually more of a feature of their 545 gun, but it also appears on the AS-10Bs, and actually because of this, and probably because of this, that two of the main imports we're seeing with carry handles, it's a common misconception that most RPKs have carry handles, and obviously they don't. So, yeah, not to harp too much on this one. This is the milled receiver version. They also did a reinforced heavy stamped receiver version. This one is in 7.62 NATO 308, which for the M78 is probably the most common caliber because it was the most popular and sold the wellest? There we go. It sold the wellest. And it makes sense because this long, heavy of a barrel bipod, not a whole lot of use for 223, but 7.62 NATO, yeah, you might get something out of it. And at that time, 7.62 by 39 still was not popular here. It does not have windage adjustable rear sights. It has M71 style on the top of the removable gas tube. Smooth top cover. Unlike other Valmets, except for the M71, the front side is part of the front here, and the 3-prong flash hider. Does have a bayonet lug. No cleaning rod under the barrel. This is definitely a heavy barrel, and it's quite a bit longer. This flash hider unit that's pinned on plus screwed on, with it, it's about a 24.5-inch assembly, but the barrel portion being about 23 inches of that. That means it is a longer gun than the standard RPK. It's about 44 inches. And it's a heavier gun too, although I didn't think to ask someone to read my scale to me about it. But it is heavier. And it does have a clubfoot buttstock, but as I've said in a few other videos, to me, this is less of an RPK style than a KVK 62 style, which is the Finnish light machine gun, or it looks kind of inspired by the RPD. To me, just the way it has this long neck and more of a curve to it. Standard synthetic grip. Standard handguard. Unlike an RPK, which has an upper and a lower, this has handguards that are left and right and single piece wood. They also made black plastic. And the bipod, again, it's tubular steel, not squared off, and relatively short. It again reminds me more of the RPD than RPK. So honestly, I see more influence from that earlier gun than I do the RPK in this critter. What do you think? Does the M78 seem more RPD or RPK to you? And yet again, deployed out. It's interesting, the bipod on this is kind of has an upward or outward sweep. And it doesn't use the clip as the others. Instead, it has a bracket under the gas block here. The carry handle is spring-loaded and folds to the left, whereas on the Romanian, it is just, held in with tension and is on the right and kind of folds up only at a slight angle. It's pretty kind of doofy, but yeah, it's kind of neat too, I guess, in the same vein, however you want to look at it. This one's certainly stiff enough. Some of them flop around pretty bad. There we go. And of course they imported fixed stock versions of the AES-10 as well, but with the M78 they were all fixed stock They had some folder Valmets, but not the M78. They probably didn't see a reason. And it has an extended mag catch here with a protector to keep it from getting accidentally hit. And again, does have the bayonet lug. Flip up night sight too, which is one feature it does share with the M72. The Yugo M72 has a night sight, different mechanical system, but same concept. And yeah, this was the first semi-automatic RPK to ever come into America. So it kind of set the trend, and in fact, as is famously known, these were used in movies like Red Dawn and many others to stand in for RPKs because not even Hollywood could get originals back in the early 80s. And as I've said in many other videos, if you just want an authentic Russian style, the Romanian AS-10 is great. It's also just a fun shooter. But yeah, had to bring out the Valmet to show that it's certainly probably the most different of any of them here. And even if this was a 7.62x39, it would still be very different. Although most of the 7.62x39s, really all I think I've seen in person, were on a stamped receiver, not milled. But I wouldn't say anything if you said you had a milled X39 Valmet M78, because they did all kinds of variants. They did a stamped 308 too. Well, there you have it. Not all things with a long, heavy barrel and a bipod are an RPK, despite what some might kind of call them shorthand-wise. Alright, one quick one. With the Valmet out, I couldn't resist also dragging out the Galil Arm, which, as you know, was very much inspired and even heavily based on the Valmet. And while this was designed primarily to be used as an assault rifle, having a light machine gun capability was also at the fore. Actually, its bipod is quite similar to the M78's tubular steel. It even locks, at least conceptually, the same way, clipping under. It too has a carry handle, but yeah. If we consider this Kalashnikov-inspired light machine gun, it would be our lightest and shortest. Has a barrel of 18 inches, overall length of just a hair under 39 inches with the stock folded out. And it weighs only a little over 9.5 pounds, although that does depend on the exact bipod and handguard and a few other minor things. So under 10 pounds, at least in 5.56, which was what the IDF would have issued. And very clearly based on the Valmet, be it the RK-62, the M78, or both. But again, primarily a rifle, but you could kind of consider it a light machine gun, a squad support weapon, at least if you like. So I thought, why not bring it out, just, complete the set. As I have said in many videos, I really don't see the Galil as a true AK. I see it as using an AK operating system, but I think the Israelis, well, first the Finnish and then the Israelis, have made so many changes to it that it's truly its own thing. But others disagree and lump it in with AKs, so why not be complete? So here it is, briefly. They're cool. We have plenty of videos on them. I certainly appreciate you hanging out with me, and I hope you found this entertaining, maybe even helpful. There's not really a lot of info out on the Bulgarian LMG. There's really not much on the Finnish M78 at all. And even the M72, often just gets pigeonholed as the Yugoslavian RPK and left to that. Most don't even point out the fact that it has a 2-inch shorter barrel. I don't know. I just kind of like having data, knowing things, and just enjoying them. They're all very fun guns. These milled on this. Of course, nothing is really as slick as these old Finnish guns, but that's just, what it is. I mean, do I wish it were in 7.62x39? Yeah, in a way, but then again, it'd probably be on a stamped receiver if so, and I really like me some milled receivers, so I don't know. Hard to say. I have shot one in 308 before, my old one, and it was a lot of fun. The same thing I could say about the Arsenal here. At first, I really wish they'd had the one in 7.62x39. But after shooting this one a few times, it's a lot of fun. And I have plenty of guns, even several RPKs in X39. So having one in a NATO caliber is actually quite neat. And to be fair, over in Bulgaria, they seem to use both calibers. The only one they don't use is the 5.45. Because, yeah. So, I've tried to be thorough. If I was vague in some areas, it was probably just because there's not really any info out there. But if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. If you know anything more about the Bulgarian LMG or really about the Finnish M78, please let me know, because it's really, really difficult to find info. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and also on behalf of Jay, we will both catch you very soon, next time.